Good evening, everyone. We are reconvening tonight's meeting of the Tacoma Park City Council. The council just met in a closed session to receive legal advice related to the Purdue Pharma and secondary manufacturers opioid litigation settlements. The meeting was closed pursuant to Annotated Code of Maryland General Provisions, Article 3-305B7 and 8, and the council is now reconvening after that closed session. So in terms of the agenda this evening, the council will have a presentation regarding the Metropolitan Branch Trail Design update, followed by a voting session this evening, single reading ordinance awarding a contract for EV chargers, resolution authorizing the city manager to execute the National Opioid Settlement Agreement related to Purdue Pharma opioid litigation and Maryland subdivision agreement, the resolution authorizing the city manager to execute the National Opioid Settlement Agreements related to the secondary manufacturers opioid settlement and Maryland subdivision agreement. The fifth item is the first reading ordinance approving the FY26 budget amendment number 2. And the sixth item is the second reading ordinance approving aging in place contract with the Village of Tacoma Park. We will then have 3 work sessions this evening. The first is the police vehicle purchase. The second is police security, camera, trailer purchase. And then finally, the recommendations for appointments to the youth council. On Wednesday, October the 1st, Yom Kippur begins at sunset. And on Wednesday, October the 1st, the city council will not meet. We will reconvene on Wednesday, October the 8th at 7:30. We will have a voting session, which is the second reading ordinance approving the FY26 budget amendment number 2, the single reading ordinance approving the purchase of police vehicles, single reading ordinance approving the purchase of 2 security camera trailers, resolution providing for appointments to the Youth Council, resolution designating Robert Desperdo as the resident agent for service of process. We will then have work sessions that evening. Tentatively slated is a contract for stop sign cameras. We will then have a work session on procurement for the 2 public works vehicles, a procurement session related to leaf vacuum box. And then we also have a work session on options to address noise complaints. On Sunday, October the 12th through Tuesday, October the 14th, is the Maryland Municipal League Fall Conference. Monday, October the 13th, is Indigenous Peoples Day. City offices and facilities are open. And on Wednesday, October the 15th, the council will meet at its regular time. At 7:30 p.m., we will have a presentation from the Arts and Humanities Committee on their annual report, Community Quality of Life Grant Report. And we will also have voting sessions. The first is a single reading ordinance awarding a contract for stop sign cameras, single reading ordinance approving procurement for 2 public works vehicles, a single reading ordinance approving procurement of a leaf vacuum box. We will then have 2 work sessions. The first is the Community Connectors Program implementation update, and then the code amendment use of city seals or logo. All right, and so with that, I'm going to just want to confirm with the clerk that for today's meeting, are we having the presentation before public comments? No? Thank you very much. So the first item for today is the public comments on voting items. Again, voting items this evening is a single reading ordinance awarding a contract for EV chargers, resolution authorizing the city manager to execute the National Opioid Settlement Agreements related to Purdue Pharma opioid litigation and Maryland subdivision agreement. The resolution authorizing the city manager to execute the National Opioid Settlement Agreements related to the secondary manufacturers opioid litigation and Maryland subdivision agreement. First reading ordinance approving the FY26 budget amendment number 2, and second reading ordinance approving aging in place contract with the Village of Tacoma. Do we have any public comments on voting items this evening? Okay, seeing none, do we have any virtual comments on voting items this evening? Okay, we're going to move on to general public comments. Do we have any general public comments this evening?
Colleen Cordes, Ward 1. Please hold off on hiring a consultant to start the rent stabilization review this fall. The timing is awful. As you know, many tenants will not feel safe openly taking part in the review right now. Nearly a third of all city residents are immigrants. So it seems likely that the majority of renters, probably a sizable majority, are also immigrants. It's a different, far more brutal world out there for your constituents who are immigrants than it was in June when you decided to go ahead with this review. Since then, our city has become a constant core target for frightening federal raids that intimidate Black and brown residents regardless of legal status. It's not too late for each of you to do a serious heart check here. Would going ahead with a contract for the RFP really be respectful, caring, and fair to our neighbors who rent their homes? Consider the anxiety many are experiencing about whether it's safe to give out their names and addresses, even for Zooms, or to attend any public event. Immigrant right groups advise not even opening your door to strangers, as ICE is legally allowed to lie in their attempts to detain people. That means canvassing is out. How can the city possibly secure meaningful input from tenants right now for a review of a city policy that is obviously critical for tenants? You yourselves last week acknowledged how the ongoing federal raids have obviously reduced attendance at the Crossroads Market and the Long Branch Festival. This new high-stress reality argues strongly for a full stop and rethink of the plan to sign a contract this fall. If tenant protections really are a high city priority, the idea of an indefinite pause would be taken seriously by everyone. After all, this review seems mostly intended to identify changes that would appeal to potential developers, not tenants. Where is the urgency of this review that tenants' interest should be so little regarded? The RFP itself rightly emphasizes how essential it is that the consultant receive robust input from tenants to directly inform the recommendations. So it cannot be a fair process if many tenants are hesitant to participate. At the very least, before you approve any contract for the rent stabilization review, please commit to this. Closely quiz the city manager on how exactly the preferred consultant plans to effectively engage and receive input from tenants. A heavy lift at any time in this period when many tenants understandably are likely to avoid openly participating. And please don't approve a contract if you're not satisfied with the answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other general public comments this evening?
Good evening, Kristen Oplanik from Ward 1. I'm really excited for the Metropolitan Branch Trail presentation tonight, and I just wanted to, for the record, say that the biking infrastructure in Tacoma Park really needs improvement, and we're so thrilled to finally see something happen. My husband commutes to and from work by bike into DC, and the infrastructure in the city is so wonderful and has changed so much in the recent years. And we would love to see an equivalent response in Tacoma Park. My kids love to bike, but it is scary for them out there because the infrastructure is no good. And you see so many families on e-bikes getting around town. It's clearly something the community likes to do and have that mode of transportation available to them, and we really need our infrastructure to catch up to keep it safe for everyone. So excited for the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other general public comments this evening?
Arthur David Olson, Ward 4, Herbie Hancock Avenue. A bit more tonight on the budget in general. This May, the council voted in favor of a budget. The proposed budget weighed in at 325 pages. The city's website now has a FY26 adopted budget. It weighs in at 408 pages. That budget may be many things, but it cannot be the budget that the council adopted. At a minimum, I hope the long version can be renamed the city manager's budget this year and in the future to make it clear who adopted it. I hope the council will do more. It may be that the short version is perfectly adequate for running the city. In that case, I hope the city will forego creation of the long version in the future. This will reduce city expenses. But it may be the case that the extra information in the long version is crucial to proper running of the city. If that's the case, the extra information is crucial for you to determine whether the budget is sound when you vote on it. The information is best available at that time. It may be that the short form is adequate but won't win awards. My sense is that keeping cost of budget preparation down is more important than winning awards. As long as the budget is workable, it need not be award-winning. If winning awards is a criteria in anyone's job description, I hope the criteria will be removed. I hope reducing the cost of budget preparation will be added. Having two budgets can lead to real problems. This year, for example, there's an $811,568 error in the long version. The city manager recommended reducing budgeted staff salary savings by that amount, and the council approved the change. But the unreduced amount shows up on page 234 of the long version. I hope that for the coming budget year and for the future, the council will direct that there be one budget, not two, letting city management determine which of the two current forms to use. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other general public comments? Do we have any virtual public comments?
We do. We have Mary Machui on Zoom.
Okay, wonderful. Ms. Machui? Ms. Machui, can you hear us? Ms. Machui, if you're speaking, it looks like you may be on mute. Okay, all right. All right. Okay, Ms. Machui, I think, is having some technical difficulties today. In light of the fact that we have guests here, I'm going to keep us moving through the agenda. Next up, council comments. Do we have any council comments this evening? Councilmember Westlake?
Thank you, Mayor Searcy. I just want to go over this past weekend. My family and I enjoyed the play day on Saturday, even though it started raining a lot. We still had a really good time when the rain came inside playing board games. And on Sunday, I stopped by the Sunday event that was at the gazebo, and that was also really helpful and interesting. The most important one was that this past Monday night, we had a meeting in Ward 6 at the Recreation Center to start the conversation with folks about how to make sure that the traffic study that will happen in New Hampshire Gardens will reflect the thoughts and concerns that residents already have right now. I was so happy. There was a really good turnout. The information is available on the website, including a survey to submit feedback. I really encourage any residents to do that. If you go to the city website and search for traffic studies, you'll see it. Because I look forward to more on that, and I really want to thank the staff that worked on it. It was a really well done event. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Westlake. Councilmember DeBala.
Thank you. Just quickly, today the Regional Metropolitan Council of Governments Climate Group met, and two things that the council and some residents might want to know about. So the federal grant for a comprehensive climate action plan is still there. It's always good to know that you have money for a project. But quite seriously, there is a regional greenhouse gas inventory, a co-pollutants survey, which makes me think of the air group, and a workforce planning section that were presented today. And the second thing that was presented is there's a mid-course review on the previous plan that takes us out to 2030. Again, gas inventory today was a focus on buildings. Anybody's interested in any of the details, let me know. And yes, Councilmember Schlegel, I will send you the co-pollutants section. That's it for me, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Dabala. Councilmember Landman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just quickly, I'd like to thank the Ward 1 folks who are here tonight for your comments about the Metropolitan Branch Trail and about the upcoming survey on rent stabilization. I'd like to mention to to Colleen that the topic that you raised about the difficulty of surveying renters in the current climate of fear is something that I have discussed already with the staff in the anticipation of the survey, and it's something that I hope we will be reviewing any RFP responses with care to see whether they are actually able to carry out meaningful surveys. And it's something that a Deputy City Manager Hapte said that she would be looking at as they went forward, and I think it's a very important point. It was interesting that we had quite good turnout for the survey, for the tenants forum the other night. I was pleased to see how many people were here. Not that many of them were tenants from every building, but there were several tenant leaders that were here from the tenant association, so that was a helpful sign, but definitely not indicative of every part of the city or every ward or every building, but still some people were able to come, so thank you for raising the topic. I just wanted to also flag for Ward 1 that I will have a coffee with your council member this coming Saturday, the 27th. It's going to be at our beautiful new library from 1 to 3 p.m. Bring your library card and meet me in the program room, which is right inside the library entrance on the right as you come in from 1 to 3 p.m. I hope to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Landman. Councilmember Honzak.
Thank you. Sorry, I feel like I'm a little far from the mic. I just want to thank you, Councilmember Landman, for that comment about reaching tenants, and also thank you, Colleen Cordes, for bringing up the point. I'm not going to repeat what you said. I just want to echo. I really support the comments that you just made, but I also. I think that the point that you made that's really important to me is the fact that this is a safe space for our tenants in this environment. I know things are getting worse as we speak every day, but one of the things that's exciting to me is that people really did come out for that tenant event, and it's been one of the events during my 3 years on council that I haven't had the chance to sort of organize around, and I was able to, as a council member, get folks to come out to that event, and they did show up, I think because it was definitely something that was really going to provide services and information that everybody needed, and I'm quite sure that we, the council members, each one of us will be ready to serve at the pleasure of the staff to make sure that tenants feel safe in the spaces that we create virtually or otherwise, so that folks can participate. But I will look forward to hearing what their strategy is. I want to thank the staff for the benches. We just got one. We just got a bench. I see Roz back there smiling. We just got a bench on Houston Avenue in front of the Cambridge, which I can't tell folks how important this is to Ward 5. It's probably one of the most exciting things that's happened in the 3 years that I've been on council, a bench. And then I saw another bench going up on Flower Avenue, and right as they were putting it in, two men who lived on that street were smiling too, like, wow, I have a place to sit now as I wait for the bus. Folks are waiting for at least 30 to 40 minutes sometimes at Flower Avenue and on Houston. So this is an area with lots and lots of pedestrians. Many people don't even have cars. So 4 benches is what I think are going in. I didn't actually know that, so I just thank you, staff. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And also, I noticed, I haven't heard yet, but I noticed that some signs went up saying stop for pedestrians on the 2 crosswalks where the city wasn't able to put new stop signs. They did an evaluation, but they did go to some effort to put in new signs that really show people, say, hey, stop for pedestrians in the crosswalk. And again, noticed. We will be rolling out the message and making sure everybody sees them. And just really quickly, I'm sorry that I had to miss this evening's closed session. And thank you, Mayor, for coming out. Even before the closed session to join at Monsecunda tonight, there was an event called Stand for Sudan, because for those who aren't aware, there's a massive humanitarian crisis going on in Sudan for the last couple of years. It doesn't get a lot of attention in the news, but honestly, the estimates are between 20,000 and 135,000 people have died as a result of a conflict that's taken a similar amount of time, actually, in recent years as the Gaza conflict. And so I really hope that folks will take a moment and take a look at that conflict. It's really tragic, and because that country rarely gets a lot of news time in the U.S., it doesn't get the kind of attention that it needs. Okay, I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Landman. Councilmember Schlegel. Councilmember Hanzak, I'm so sorry. Councilmember Schlegel.
Yeah, thank you to everyone. I have a few comments. First off, I'm probably not the only one thinking this, but I just want to say I am aware of the lawsuit filed against the city of Tacoma Park last week in relation to alleged violations of the Open Meetings Act. And I just want to be clear that I consider the lawsuit a very serious matter. Regarding your comment, Ms. Cordes, I agree with your statement. When you talk about the need for robust input from tenants, I asked a question about that at the recent tenants forum, and in no way do I fault staff for still needing to consider how to operate public engagement in this radically changed landscape. It's just the case that we know we have a core council priority of doing everything we can to ensure inclusive, belonging, and well-engaged processes. So I agree with your observation that many tenants are likely to avoid openly participating. In my own neighborhood, it's like a desert where I used to see people hanging around outside along New Hampshire Avenue. There's nobody there. So I don't see how we can move forward in good faith without a clear and tested set of protocols for gathering broad input. And I hope my colleagues will think about that and agree. Ms. Brannick, if I'm saying your name correctly, Christine, I agree with all of your comments. I bike community to DC 5 miles each way, and the transformations in the past 5 years have been a tipping point that made it conceivable for me to do this safely. And I think filling the half-mile gap that Tacoma Park has in the MBT route is a huge service to our metro area. It's supporting cleaner air, and it's a great opportunity to welcome visitors and build awareness about our opportunities for recreation and shopping and entertainment. I did participate in a COG meeting of the Air Quality Committee today, talking about bike trails. I was happy to announce that we are moving to fill our 0.45 mile section, and also that we're installing EV chargers. The most surprising takeaway I got from that was seeing that every year we have almost 0 days when the combination of the two pollutants that cause ozone to form on hot days. We've had many years when we've had 0 days like that, except we redline on like July 5th and 6th, or maybe July 5th if the wind is blowing. So I think we need to applaud ourselves for canceling the fireworks display and full speed ahead with reducing the reliance on that tradition. Mr. Olson, I'm very curious about the area you identified, and I'm eager to consider your broader points. Can I say just a couple other things?
Go right ahead.
Councilmember Honzak, benches must be in the air because we have a small but visionary group of residents starting in a cluster in Ward 3 who are looking just for ways to help older people or people with mobility issues to have opportunities to sit down every couple hundred yards. And so it might be Adirondack chairs in people's front yards, who knows, but we'll be working on this, and I envision this network building out from various directions, so it's wonderful. Just in general with older people, let's appreciate them. They are giving so much in this community. They have so much expertise and energy that they're sharing. I just think we are so lucky to have so many engaged and active older residents. I mean, after all, we're all becoming older people every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Schlegel. I do want to thank everyone for coming out and providing comments tonight. I tried biking in Tacoma Park. They lost me at the first hill. I couldn't make it up. So I am very appreciative that we are trying to make that process easier for people to bike within the city. And I'm looking forward to hearing the presentation tonight on the Metropolitan Branch Trail design. And the city has been doing a lot of work, and I think we'll hear about that as well, with a number of efforts to provide more bike connectivity throughout the city. And I do appreciate the comments that were raised regarding engagement of our renter community, particularly our immigrant community during these difficult times. I've had lots of conversations with different organizations and have said, hey, we learned some things during COVID, right? We learned some things in terms of how to engage people from a distance, and what are some ways to leverage established networks that members of our community have. We had to deal with community engagement around our rec center during COVID. And it meant taking a different approach. It meant making sure that we were in partnership with community leaders in the communities that we are trying to reach out to. So while I appreciate the comment, I think that we are in a different place this time around than we were pre-COVID in understanding and realizing some of the lessons learned on how to pivot to reach people in the way in which they would prefer to be engaged. I think the onus will be on all of us to make sure that we're doing our part to adhere to the ways in which members of our community would prefer to interact with the city during this time and recognize the sensitivities of what they're facing right now. But I do think that it's important, because if it's not rent stabilization, we need to be able to communicate with residents in our community that are not going to show up here on at 7:30. And it could be, I need to know if someone in your family has been detained, and we need to figure out ways in which we might be able to support your family. So either way it goes, regardless of the topic, we have to figure out a way to make sure that we are cognizant of what's happening in our community right now and have identified ways to engage with those that are impacted. But I do appreciate you raising that point, and I encourage you to continue to hold us accountable to making sure that we're able to engage people. But I do recognize that we are in a slightly different place than we were pre-COVID. And Arthur, thank you so much for your diligence as it relates to the budget. I get lots of emails from Arthur during budget season, finding things, and he's spot on. So I appreciate your continued advocacy for us to simplify our budget to make it more readable to all. In terms of stuff that's happening, I want to thank Enterprise and the Purple Line Corridor Coalition for providing me with an opportunity to speak during the breakout sessions for their Purple Line Equitable Housing Training that was today. It was a great opportunity to kind of talk about some of the lessons learned as it relates to engagement around the development of affordable housing in communities. So I appreciate that. Also, as Councilmember Honzak mentioned, Stand with Sudan fundraiser. I hate that I wasn't able to stay longer, but do want to encourage people to familiarize themselves with the issues that's happening in Sudan and consider supporting organizations that are trying to do work to get resources out to impacted families. On Friday, I will be speaking at Blair High School in celebration of their 100th year anniversary. So who would have known? Blair's been around for 100 years. Yes, I am appreciative to the students that have encouraged, asked me to come out and address the group. And so looking forward to that. And on Sunday, I will be participating on a panel at Piney Branch Elementary School about 1 o'clock to discuss ICE enforcement. And I believe County Exec is potentially Jamie Raskin may also be on that panel. So looking forward to participating in that as well. And so with that, I see that we have Ms. Machui. Now, Ms. Machui, I'm gonna break the rules and give you a chance because you missed your time, but we're gonna give you an opportunity to provide comments. Can you hear us right now?
I don't know if you can.
We can hear you now. We can hear you now. Okay. Ms.
Yeah,
Machui,
I
go
don't
right
know
ahead.
what happened, or I'm sorry, but I don't know what happened earlier.
Don't worry about it. It's okay. We're here to listen to your comments.
I just wanted to say that all this talk about tenants' rights, how about low-income homeowners' rights? I called your housing office. I'm having a hard time paying my property tax. I called the housing office here in Tacoma Park, said they can't help homeowners. Why not? Some of us are poor. We're low income and disabled. Can't you help us? You act like we don't exist. And I'll tell you, one time, a few years ago, I got a ride. I rarely take rides from Uber, but I got an Uber ride from a man who was from Africa. And he told me one of the first things he wanted to do was buy a house in Tacoma Park. He said he lived in an apartment here in Tacoma Park. And he said he really, really wanted to buy a house here in Tacoma Park. And you know what? The average cost of a house is in Tacoma Park, $800,000. Do you think a Uber driver can afford that? I mean, you all don't think of that. You just think of the, us leaving. A lot of us are leaving. We can't afford it. I mean, especially in my block, the mostly Black and disabled people are leaving. I've seen it, and it's sad. The blue collar type people, the lower income people, we're all leaving. It's like this gentrification is driving me crazy. Do not like it. I'm not attacking the rich people. They can stay here, but stop attacking us poor people, okay? Have a good evening. And by the way, October the 5th is the street festival. I don't know if someone mentioned that. Goodbye.
Thank you very much, Ms. Machui. Okay, so with that, we're going to turn things over to City Manager DeSpirito for City Manager comments.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council and residents and guests. Number of departments reporting in. From Communications Department, the City of Tacoma Park has been selected to participate in the 2025-2026 Community Engagement Academy, a year-long program from the National League of Cities, Cities of Opportunity Initiative. Only 6 cities nationwide, just 6, were chosen for this opportunity, running from September 2025 through September 2026. The Academy will provide technical assistance, practical tools, and peer learning to help Tacoma Park strengthen communication and build authentic, ongoing relationships with residents. Through this program, the city will advance community engagement practices focused on regular dialogue and shared decision-making, fostering trust, amplifying resident voices, and improving the health and well-being of our community. We are proud to join Aurora, Illinois, Fort Collins, Colorado, New Haven, Indiana, North Charleston, South Carolina, and Richmond, Virginia, in this important work. From the police department, our next Coffee with a Cop is Monday, September 29th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. at Dyer Coffee at 6480 New Hampshire Avenue. Please join Tacoma Park police officers for casual chats, coffee, and community connection. Whether you've got a question, a concern, or just want to say hello, our officers will be there, and you're welcome. We're happy to report we expect our mental health pilot program to be up and fully running in the near future. Jill Larson, our contracted Montgomery County Health and Human Services employee, is unfortunately no longer available to us to serve the Tacoma Park pilot program. Until we can add the second full-time clinician, however, we will be rotating the staffing and coverage of the pilot with 3 staff members. The staff members assigned will be Yolanda Pearson, the clinician assigned to Tacoma Park, and she recently joined us, and 2 additional Montgomery County Health and Human Services employees. Both clinicians have extensive experience. One has been with the county for over 25 years and has been heavily involved with CIT training throughout that time. The other is new to Health and Human Services, but comes from a mobile crisis background. These 2 clinicians will be introduced at a later date. We're very excited, though, to finally get the program underway. We expect to be able to provide an update to the council late this fall or early next year on the progress of the pilot program. From the Recreation Department, upcoming senior trips. Spots are still available. Don't miss out on these fun fall outings. First, on October 16th, Laurel Dutch Farmers Market, $6 per person. And December 12th, Arts and Crafts Fair at the Dulles Expo Center, $10 per person. For more information, please contact Hazel Hodgson at hazelh@tacomaparkmd.gov. This week's first staff shout-out is from the police department. We're shouting out to Lieutenant Joseph Butler, who is retiring after more than 27 years of dedicated service in Maryland law enforcement. Lieutenant Butler devoted his entire career to the city of Tacoma Park, rising from private to commander of the Criminal Investigations Division. We wish him well and much success in his next chapter. We'll have a little send-off for Lieutenant Butler, by the way, tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. in the lobby. Tonight's final shout-out is to the staff member behind the curtain on these comments and shout-outs every week, Christine Heidebrecht. For those of you who haven't had the privilege of working with Christine directly, she works as a project specialist in the city manager's office and juggles many responsibilities between her functions as the executive assistant for the city manager's office and other impactful citywide projects. Some of these include managing the Staff Appreciation Committee and the implementation of a citywide document management and archiving system. In addition to being an exceptional events planner, Christine's big heart, enthusiasm for community, customer service, and professionalism are infectious to us all. She is also one of the few people in the office that, for whatever problem or idea you need to bounce off of, she will have at least 2 past work experiences and 3 podcasts that she's listened to that may hold the answers for you. We're very lucky to have Christine as part of our team. She's wonderful. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, City Manager. And I just wanted to say congratulations to Lieutenant Butler. Unfortunately, I will not be able to attend. It's going away tomorrow, but 27 years, wow. And I just want to really send home appreciation for his service. And Christine, one of her superpowers is wrangling my schedule. people just ping Christine, and she's very patient. Like, Mayor, I need to know when you're free. I'm like, never. So, but she takes the time to coach me through trying to figure out open spots. So, again, I'm very appreciative to Christine for all of the work that she does for the city manager's office, and definitely appreciate Lieutenant Butler for his 27 years of service. All right, so with that, we're going to move things along to our presentation this evening, the Metropolitan Branch Trail Design Update.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Casey-Ann Spence, and I work as the transit planner for the city. Tonight, we'll be talking to you about the Metropolitan Branch Trail and give you some updates as to where we've been since the last time we've been in front of council. I am not doing the bulk of the presentation. We will have Emily Martin from RKNK, who has been our consultant on this project, to do the bulk of the presentation. But before I hand over to Emily, I just want to give some context to why we do this project. And I'm thankful for Councilmember Schlegel and our residents who came out and voiced some support for the project, because we really do this project to advance the council priorities of climate sustainability and resilience, as well as advancing community safety and well-being and inclusivity. So Metropolitan Branch Trail, like any other project, has a lot of trade-offs. And as you'll see through this presentation, we've had to make some trade-offs to make this project safe, as well as to maintain those goals that we're striving towards. So with that, I'll hand over to Emily.
All right, hello, good evening. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get into it. Just kind of discuss a little bit of background and purpose for this project. So the overall goal will be to provide a wider bike facility than what is out there today, and also add in that continuous pedestrian lighting that will help to extend the usability time of that trail into the evening and nighttime hours. We're also going to look to improve the two intersections that are within the project limits, Buffalo Avenue and Tacoma Avenue, and then Tacoma and Fenton Street as well. So to dive into the exact project limits, the project begins at the intersection of Eastern and Tacoma. The existing Metropolitan Branch Trail, I'm pretty sure everyone here is familiar with its location, but is on the west side of Tacoma Avenue and will parallel Tacoma until it hits the intersection of Fenton Street, and then parallels northwest along Fenton Street up until it hits Montgomery College, where the existing pedestrian overpass bridge is today. This is the city-maintained portion of the Met Branch Trail. So a little bit more background. This is in compliance with the Tacoma Park Master Plan, which had a goal to add pedestrian and bicycle facilities parallel the Metro Red Line. It's also in compliance with the Montgomery County Bicycle Master Plan that classifies the Metropolitan Branch Trail as part of their breezeway network, which they define a breezeway network is a wide path facility that can accommodate side-by-side cyclist use as well as passing as well in a safe way. Also provide adequate street buffers from between traffic and pedestrians and cyclists to help promote safety. This is also going to include having that corridor-long pedestrian scale lighting as well, and then also having wayfinding signage, which will connect this portion of Metropolitan Branch Trail into the county-wide portion of Metropolitan Branch Trail and help users be able to navigate the entire trail system more easily. So a little bit more background on where this project has been over the years. It started with an MWCOG grant in April of 2022. This was able to get the project funded through 30% design. The 30% design was completed in May of 2023, and it concluded with a city council presentation in July of 2023. The project was then reinitiated with an MDOT Bikeways Award in September of 2023. There was a little bit of delay in the consultant selection, just working with SHA to get a consultant on board. So that that was finalized in August of 2024. And then from September 2024 to May of this year, the design team was working on collecting supplemental data that wasn't available at the 30% phase, responding to comments that came in post that 30% design, also submitting and getting approval on the stormwater management concept. And then also at that 30% design, acknowledging there had been a lot of tree impacts shown with that design. So between design staff, City of Tacoma Park staff, we spent a lot of this time seeing what we could do to still provide a safe facility while also minimizing tree impacts where possible. And I'm going to get more detailed into that later in the presentation. Just earlier this month, we did conclude the mandatory referral review with Montgomery County Planning. And then that brings us to tonight, where I'm going to present the updated project design to council this evening. And then next month, we will be submitting the 60% design plans, and with 95% going in early 2026 wintertime, with final plans in the springtime of 2026. So some background on the community engagement that's already happened. So in December of 2022, there was a community site walk, and this was even before design had started, just to get input from the public. What do the users want to see on this trail? And then in March of 2023, there was a virtual public meeting that discussed the draft 30% design plans. And then that opened into a community survey where people were able to comment on those draft plans. And generally, people were very supportive of those plans. In July of 2023 was the first city council presentation of what was the 30% design at that time. And then the City of Tacoma Park staff continued to engage the community by holding a bike safety roundtable in August of 2025. And then again, that brings us to this evening, where I'm going to give a project update. Some past agency stakeholder coordination in October of 2022, again, before the design had begun, there was a site walk with planning, public works, and Montgomery College staff to, again, get their feedback on what they want to see out of the trail, what's worked for the trail, what things would they like to see out of the design. In May of 2023, there was a review meeting with WMATA to discuss the 30% design. As everyone knows, this does parallel CSX and WMATA tracks, so they will be a large stakeholder in this project. In that same vein, in June of this year, City of Tacoma Park entered into a preliminary engineering agreement with CSX to start initiating their review and comments. And then in July of 2025, we had a on-site field meeting with the city forester and city staff to discuss those 30% tree impacts that were resulting from the 30% design and what we can do to mitigate and minimize those. And as I mentioned previously, we had the mandatory referral planning board meeting in September of just earlier this month that generally was very positive feedback from the planning committee. So now getting into the nitty gritty, what everyone's here for, the Metropolitan Branch Trail. So here is a typical section of the trail, of a proposed typical section, I should say, showing an 11-foot wide trail. This is going to be a wider facility to be able to, again, have that side-by-side cycling and passing, much safer than what's out there today. I'm also going to note that 3 to 4 foot wide street buffer is what is out there today, so we're going to try to maintain that as much as we can to keep that safe separation from vehicles and pedestrians. I also want to note on the left side of this image, what's called out as existing fence on your screen is the CSX right-of-way line. Again, we know that that does parallel this trail and in some locations gets very close to the existing trail and can pinch us down with the amount of widening we're able to do. So it is a limitation in this project for sure. I also want to point out the trail lighting that is shown on the left side of this image as well. Again, trying to meet that breezeway standard and be able to light this trail and make it more accessible to people. Here's another proposed section, this time along Fenton Street. Again, you can see we're calling out an 11-foot wide trail in that same sort of buffer space. And another reason we want to maintain that existing buffer space as much as possible is to be able to keep those existing street trees that are out there today. They're providing a beautiful shaded canopy, and we want to maintain that as much as we can. So here is an existing site photo along the trail. This is looking south along Tacoma Avenue. You can see the existing trail is about 8 feet wide today. So our goal is to go out to 11 feet with this proposed design. Again, you can see where those street trees are that are on the left side of the trail, and then a lot of that overgrowth and brush that has started to grow on the right side of the trail has actually started to impede on the CSX fence. It is going to starting to become a hassle to maintain. So another goal of this project is going to be to clean that up and make it easier to maintain and safer delineation between the tracks and the trail as well. Here's a proposed rendering of what we're proposing for this project. You can see that wider trail. We're trying to hold the existing left side of the trail and do all of our widening towards the CSX side as much as feasible. Again, you can see the proposed trail lighting on the right side of this image. And then just a little bit further in the distance of this photo, you can see an example of that wayfinding signage that's going to help connect this to the rest of the Metropolitan Branch Trail. And here is an existing photo of the one of the intersections in the project, Tacoma Ave and Buffalo. Today, there is an existing raised crossing that's about 100 feet south of the existing intersection. There are also 2 right-on bus stops in the northbound and southbound direction of Tacoma as well. And then you can also see indicators where the Metropolitan Branch Trail is, as well as CSX a little bit further to the west. And here is a proposed image of what we're proposing in our design. You can see that wider Metropolitan Branch Trail. We're also proposing relocating that existing raised crossing north of the intersection. The goal here is to help consolidate pedestrian movement in the intersection instead of having pedestrians have to walk so far away to meet the crosswalk, bringing everything much closer together here. We're also proposing relocating the southbound right-on bus stop, again, closer to the intersection for that same reason. We are also proposing turning this intersection into an always stop condition. Today, there is a stop sign on Buffalo, but we are proposing adding stop signs on the northbound and southbound directions of Tacoma to help calm speeds in this area. I also want to point out the new trail lighting that's shown in this image too. This is also going to help with visibility at this crossing as well. And moving further along the project limits, here's an existing conditions photo of the trail spur that's roughly in the middle of the project. This connects the Metropolitan Branch Trail down to the Fenton and Tacoma intersection. Today it's about 5 feet wide, which is, you pretty much would have to dismount your bike to be able to guide it down this steep hill. I also want to note the 2 trees that are on either side of this trail today as well. And here is a proposed rendering of what we're proposing for this section. Widening this out to 10 feet will help to make it easier to move throughout this area, more contiguous with the rest of the improvements as well. I want to note that this widening is not impacting either sets of those trees because we've been able to widen symmetrically instead of favoring one side of the existing alignment or another. And here's the other intersection that's in the project limits. It's Tacoma Ave and Fenton Street. There are pedestrian ramps at all 4 corners of the intersection that are about 5 feet wide today. You can also see on this image where the Metropolitan Branch Trail is, and then that trail spur that I had up on my screen previously that connects users down to this intersection. There are also 2 ride-on bus stops in this location as well, one in the southwest direction. The southwest bus stop is not ADA compliant today based on grades. And then the northwest bus stop has no concrete pad for pedestrians or users of the bus to be able to wait for the bus. I also want to note the existing bike repair station that's at the intersection of the trail and the trail spur, and then the existing metered parking spaces that are in the southbound direction of Tacoma Ave. And here's a proposed screenshot of our improvements. So we are proposing increasing the width of 3 of the 4 corners of the intersection to help make them wider so that way bikes can be able to negotiate the intersection more easily. We're also proposing making the southwest ride-on bus stop ADA compliant with their grades, and also adding in that concrete bus pad in the northwest ride-on bus stop as well. We are also proposing making the concrete pad for the bike repair station larger, so there can be more room to work on your bike and step out of the trail instead of having to stand in the trail and work on your bike. So moving on to stormwater treatment, all stormwater generated by the project is being treated by the project. One location that this is happening is at the here we are proposing permeable pavement in the existing parking spaces. This is going to not affect the functionality of the parking spaces. Once construction is done, users will be able to use it as they do today. Here is another existing conditions photo of the trail today. This is along Fenton Street looking northwest. Again, you can see the existing trail is about 8 feet wide today. And here's another great picture of the existing street trees and their canopy that's really shading the trail that we're going to want to try to maintain with the proposed design. And here's a proposed rendering. You can see that wider trail where we are trying to do all of our widening towards the CSX direction. Along Fenton is where that CSX property line does get very close. So we're not always able to meet an 11-foot wide trail, but we're doing as much widening as possible in this area. We're also proposing the continuous lighting on the left side here, along with, again, that wayfinding signage to help meet breezeway network standards. So I'm just going to recap some of those features that we're getting out of this project. The wider trail to help facilitate side-by-side bike travel along with passing, those wayfinding signage, continuous corridor lighting, I think is one of the biggest benefits that comes with this project. Your improved street crossing, pedestrian ramps, bus stops, and also the addition of the stormwater management facility in the existing parking spaces. We have worked hard with the city staff to limit our impacts that this project is bringing. There are no right-of-way, utility, parking, or railroad impacts with this project. There are, however, some tree impacts. As I mentioned earlier, the 30% design showed a significant number of tree impacts with this project. So when in working with city staff, we were able to update our design to decrease the tree impacts by 12%, which was a great effort on both sides to be able to come up with some innovative ideas to really take that down. And here's a list of some of the things we did do to decrease tree impacts. We actually raised the trail profile slightly to decrease the amount of excavation required when installing the trail, and so it wouldn't impact some of the root zones of the nearby trees. We also adjusted the trail spur widening, like I mentioned earlier, instead of favoring one direction or the other, making it more symmetrical so then we could save the trees on either side. We adjusted the trail alignment at the beginning and end of the project to favor the CSX side versus the street side to preserve those street trees. We also relocated the trail lighting to the CSX side to avoid the street trees as well. We also relocated the proposed stormwater management facility from the grass area into that existing metered parking space. And then we've also been implementing the latest tree protection techniques such as root pruning and air spading to also take down the number of impacts. The current estimated construction cost is $1.8 million. As I mentioned previously, our next step is going to be submitting the 60% design next month. And then we will be completing 95 early next year, final plans in spring of next year, all while the city is working to secure funding for construction. I really appreciate the opportunity to get to share this project with y'all and get to work with the city staff. And at this point, I'll take any questions you guys may have.
Great, thank you so much. And I see a lot of lights. We'll go to Councilmember DeBala.
Thank you. This is really interesting, and I am very supportive of upgrading the bike infrastructure around here before I get too old to use it. So I have one question. The last slide you just saw showed the 1.8 million. That's just for the Tacoma part of the project.
Correct.
And perhaps you could, because I think that many residents don't understand why bike infrastructure costs so much, because they remember just riding down the middle of the road when they were a kid, and they forget the part about almost getting hit. So I was wondering if you could maybe say a little bit about the costs and what goes into them. Thank you.
Yeah, so I would say some of the largest cost drivers is the cost of asphalt is very expensive. So that tends to be your largest chunk to a project like this. I'll also say some other elements that can be expensive is earthwork related to it. So anytime you're moving earth around, it also gets expensive, which I know doesn't seem like a lot, but whenever you go and dig 6 inches for even a half mile at a time, it does add up quite a bit. So yeah, the stormwater is an innovative technique, permeable pavement. So it does add some additional cost to the project as well, but I do believe is a worthy trade-off in comparison to the number of tree impacts it had previously.
There's also continuous lighting too. There's a lot of cost for lighting infrastructure and brand new lighting. It's not continuous today. So
Yeah, to reiterate that, yeah, the lighting is another cost as well to have that for the entire length of the trail.
Great, thank you very much. Councilmember Honzak.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for this presentation. I too am very supportive of biking infrastructure. I bike a lot around the city and hope to continue doing that for as long as I can. So 3 quick questions I have for you. One is the lighting, and I'll list them out first, and then you can just do them in whatever order. The lighting from the photos looks very low to the trail, and it might just be your rendition, but thinking about just, for example, my 6'3" husband on top of a bicycle, it just looks like from all the renderings that he might not actually fit underneath one of your lights. And if that were to be the case, I would just hope that would be revisited, because the whole point of widening, right, would be that everybody can get under there. And then secondly, but it may just be the renderings. And then secondly, this is kind of a random thing, but important to me. I believe that there is a historical marker sign along this pathway, because one day, in my great curiosity about whether or not we had any Native American acknowledgement anywhere in the city, I found this one sign. And to be honest with you, I wasn't very impressed with the way it was written. It seemed like it was kind of ancient and could be rewritten. So my question is, will that sign be replaced, and will we have a chance to alter it perhaps and have some community feedback on that? And finally, looking at the renderings of the inside of the path close to the fence, I saw a lot of grass. And I'm sure everyone here knows how important it is to the community not to add more work for our public works staff as much as possible, and time because it's expensive, but also because we value native plants and infrastructure. And again, that may just be a rendering, but I'm wondering whether there's any way that or maybe it already has been explored, to put some native plants along there that might be low-lying, that might require a little bit less maintenance on the part of our staff and also be native. Thank you.
So to touch on your first question about the lighting specifically, yes, it is, the rendering is probably not doing it justice in terms of height. There are requirements, though, for pedestrian scale lighting in terms of height to be able to accommodate a tall individual on a bike. The exact height is escaping me at the moment, but there is such requirements that are set based on those guidelines.
So it's above a person's head?
Yes, above
on
a person on a
right?
bike.
Okay,
Yes, yes,
okay,
yes.
sorry, just to be clear,
No,
thanks.
yes,
We
exactly.
wouldn't want to do that right from the get-go.
Well, and
Thanks.
also to that same vein, the same thing with tree limbs as well is something that we take into consideration, not just for lighting. Your second question, the sign, yes, we have discussed that sign is going to be kept and relocated within the project limits. As far as its verbiage, I'm not sure.
It's definitely something that we're open to revisiting, and we can have a community forum to engage with residents on that.
That'd be great. Thanks. The native plants.
Oh, the native planting. Yes, yeah, we will discuss that at later designs, exactly what type of planting we'll come back with, specifically working with city staff and what they would like to maintain and see. We can definitely show whatever they would prefer.
Great. Thank you very much, Councilmember Honzak. Councilmember Wesselek.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I have a question about the preliminary tree impact table. And I'm a newer council member, but a lot of us are. Can you explain that chart better to me? Because I'm seeing like number of trees, 130, but then much less. I'm having a hard time understanding it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the total number of tree impacts with the current design is shown as 130. So breaking it down into the other categories, significant trees, specimen tree, and undesirable trees are all different classifications of trees. And actually, Rudy has just raised his hand, and he may be able to give the classifications a better justice than I would.
Or urban or forester.
Yes.
Hi,
the
can you
city's
guys hear
urban
me?
forester.
Can you guys hear
You
me
wanna
all
come
right?
off mute, Rudy?
Am I still on mute? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep. So the number of tree removals, according to Urban Forest Trees, which is our city protected trees, is 66. The RK&K's version includes every single tree to be removed. That includes, a 1-inch caliper tree in the ground. It includes the small ailanthus invasive species. But in terms of urban forest trees that are protected by city code, the number is 66, with 60 of these 66 trees being within 0 to 20 inches in diameter. The largest trees, 20 to 40 inches, we are losing 6 of those. So the vast majority of these removals are very small trees.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Westlake. Councilmember Schlegel.
Thank you. I appreciate the presentation. Let's see, I appreciate the note about the grass. I think we're clear then on the tree replacements. Will any tree replacements be along the route, or would they be elsewhere in the city?
Rudy, did you want to touch on the replacements?
Sure. So with the trail widening, the planting space has shrunk, and we cannot replant areas in this Met Branch Trail. However, we will continue maintaining the street trees that are there that will not be lost during the project. And the removal cost will be added as a additional project cost for the fees that are accumulated from the 66 removals. But in terms of replanting, the city will continue its routine tree planting on private and public property, but not on the Met Branch Trail.
Thank you. A second question is, on that Fenton Avenue looking northwest slide, you could see the characteristic cracks that have appeared in the existing conditions. You see the characteristic cracks all on that stretch, which cyclists are usually just taking the street right now because those cracks have developed as, thankfully, the trees have been growing. I wondered how are tree roots and the trail going to coexist? How is the construction planning for that over the long term? And perhaps are any portions of the trail permeable or flexible?
That is not currently in the design to do a flexible pavement for the trail. That would definitely be an additional cost. So I would say we kind of talked about raising the profile grade will help a little bit over time. It won't happen as quickly, but I believe the current maintenance approach has been to repave as the routes have been coming up, and most likely that's how the design will continue.
Okay, I see. Yeah, I saw that's been done recently. The last question I had was about the southbound ride-on bus stop at Buffalo and Tacoma. Does it provide protection for disabled riders to wait out of the actual path of cyclists?
The southbound direction, yes, there is. So you can actually kind of see there's a bump out a little bit right now. That bump out is, oh, perfect, yeah, awesome. So yeah, right here is where the bus stop will be. And so you can see the cyclists would be able to continue through. And then there is this 5 foot wide by 10, if I remember correct, space for them to be able to wait out of the way of cyclists. So that way they can escape trouble, I should say, and then be able to come and ride.
Okay, it just, I'm wondering, is there any safety problem with having to cross the high-speed cyclist path to get onto the bus? And secondly, doesn't ADA require an additional 5 feet of backup space beyond a bus waiting platform? So I was just wondering whether that's in the design.
So the 5 foot refuge space is what we're providing back here that you're referring to for ADA design, yes. And as far as the speed here, I do believe there's going to have to be care. When the bus is coming up on the ounce of cyclists and pedestrians and drivers as well, to make sure that there's enough time for people to not feel like they have to rush into the trail traffic. Sure. Or a cyclist have to speed up to avoid somebody.
People will coexist. All right, I just want to thank you and say that it's not only functional design, but it is a true breeze. I know 11 feet seems wide, but it's a huge difference because people can socialize while riding side by side, as you said. And the buffer from the roadway is really important. I ride on Piney Branch Parkway Trail, which is, you're just this far from cars. And you make it okay, but you have this higher level of stress, and that doesn't keep people on their bikes when they feel that, So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilmember Schlegel. Councilmember Landman.
Yeah, hi, just one question, if I may, about the pavement. The illustration or the photo that you just had up showed those roots protruding from the flexible pavement that we have right now. I guess what you were just saying, the permeable pavement does not have the same tendency to have those waves in it?
A porous material.
Porous does not, okay. But I have heard before that there is additional difficulty in maintaining the permeability. I wonder if you could address that, either if it's more costly to place it or if it's more costly to maintain it, just so we can look ahead to the potential future of that, and so we can be realistic about it. If you could share any thoughts on that.
I think the greater cost is maintenance in the long term. You do have to go out there and make sure it is constantly clear of any brush and it isn't getting clogged. I am not aware of anywhere that it's being used in the city. Have you seen it, Rob, used anywhere within Maryland successfully?
As we know, to the south, in the DC limits, they're using it. Sorry,
yeah.
About that. Yeah, apologize. So in the DC limits, we know they're using the Perky Pave or the permeable paving system, the rubberized recycled tire material. This is part of the breezeway network. We did get, when we did our original 30% design, we did look at permeable paving like a Perky Pave, raising the trail grade to try to mitigate some of those root zone impacts. However, we did get comments from Park and Planning as well as the city, just in terms of maintenance concerns long-term, as well as the fact that it's a breezeway network. With the breezeway network, they want a more rigid, flexible, non-porous pavement section. Which is not consistent with what DC did, but that's what Montgomery County is doing to the north, and so we're trying to follow that approach. So.
Great.
Yeah,
just want to briefly provide a little bit of specific city information. We do use a flexible asphalt product called Perky Pave, primarily in sidewalks, though we have done it in some trails. It is significantly more expensive than asphalt. I want to say 20 times more expensive than asphalt. So that is a limitation. It is, when we use it for specific purposes directly associated with tree roots and infiltration of water. A lot of the maintenance issues really depends on siting. If you happen to site it at a low spot where you get a lot of water runoff and erosion from your side slopes, you're going to end up having a very short-lived permeable nature to the asphalt. So you have to be very careful where you locate it. Otherwise, it will clog, as you might imagine, from sediment, leaf debris, particularly with all the traffic going over it. Any leaves of the trail are going to be ground up and become dust and end up in the crevices of the permeable surface. So we haven't looked at permeable surface for this particular application because of the cost, because of the width, because of the longevity of it. We have done some extensive trail repairs a year or so ago, so a lot of the solution is to elevate and go over the roots. We may have to come back and do that every 10, 15 years or so.
Okay. Thank you so much, Director Braithwaite. And I just want to remind folks that we have about another 10 minutes or so on this topic. Because I see a couple of lights of folks that have already gone, I'm going to jump in here. So I just want to, I know that our urban forester mentioned repayment or the fees associated with tree removal through the city's project. Do we know how much that extra cost to the project would be? Like, are we taking that into account in terms of the 1.8 million?
That's still being worked out at the moment.
The total is estimated at 42,000.
So the 42,000 is the city holding true to its own requirements, meaning for the trees that are being removed, the fees that we would charge anyone else, we're charging ourselves. Okay. Just want to make sure I'm clear on that. Another thing that, and I know that others have talked about low-lying native versus the grass. Has there been any thought around visibility and safety as it relates to having higher brush closer to certain segments of the trail? I know that in the past where we've had some access to trails or gravel trails or the like, and if they're off of a major road and it isn't, the visibility becomes an issue. It creates some dynamics in terms of people feeling safe in terms of leveraging the trail. So were you taking that into consideration as well? I mean, I think it's important for us to preserve the trees, but I know that there are folks that are talking about kind of adding more natives, which sometimes can increase the brush, which could also reduce visibility. Has there been any considerations of that?
I don't think specifically with regards to that, no. I do think the trail lighting will take a lot of that, will help a lot of that visibility issue. And we can look at exactly where plantings occur and make sure to think about its future design life and keeping it maybe a little not as close to encroaching into the trail.
Great. And okay, I think the last commenter, Councilmember Schlegel.
Yeah, I love doing quick, long division, thanks to my fourth grade teacher, Mrs. Ewing. So if people are asking, how much is this going to cost? Roughly, if you can picture 100 feet, that would be $76,000. So compared to what a road costs, like, this is a lot less, I think. Would that be accurate to say? Yeah, okay, thank you.
Great. And so not seeing any additional lights, I do want to just ask staff, because I know that we have the last phase of the design, but I also know that you all are diligently looking for monies for everything, right? So there still may be some possibilities of grant funds and outside sources to help with funding this project, but the key is to make sure we're able to get to the point where we have 100% of the design work that's been done.
That is correct.
Excellent. Well, thank you all so much for coming out tonight. I'm super excited for this project, and we appreciate all of the hard work that everyone has put in to get us to this point.
Thank you, and I would also like to acknowledge the Public Works Department. They have worked with us to bring this project to where it is, and to thank our consultants as well for the good work they've been doing so far. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to move into our voting session this evening. Let's do the first item, the single reading ordinance awarding a contract for EV chargers. Just want to do a quick confirmation from staff that there's been no additional edits based on the meeting last week. I'm seeing heads nod.
Right.
We are ready to go. Would someone like to move the second reading ordinance awarding a contract for EV chargers? I see Councilmember DeBala moving. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Landman. Any points of discussion before we move into the vote? Okay. Seeing none. Just want to make sure. Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Landman,
Aye.
Councilmember DeBala,
Yes.
Councilmember Schlegel,
Yes.
Councilmember Gilbert,
Aye.
Councilmember Honzak,
Aye.
Councilmember Wesselek,
Aye.
Mayor Searcy.
Aye. That item moves forward. Next item is resolution authorizing the city manager to execute the National Opioid Settlement Agreement related to Purdue Pharma opioid litigation and Maryland subdivision agreement. Just want to quickly pause to see if staff has any points to share on this matter before we move it.
Yes, you'd like a quick overview of what this is for the
Yep.
public? Okay. This would be council would be voting on a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute the National Opioids Settlement Agreements related to the Purdue Pharma opioid litigation and the Maryland subdivision agreement, and a second resolution authorizing the city manager to execute the National Opioids Settlement Agreements related to the secondary manufacturers opioid litigation and Maryland subdivision agreement.
Okay, great. Just want to see if someone would like to move the resolution authorizing the city manager to execute the National Opioid Settlement Agreements related to Purdue Pharma opioid litigation and Maryland subdivision agreement. Someone like to move it?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Gilbert. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you, Councilmember Wesselek. Any points of discussion? Okay. Councilmember Schlegel?
I think that, no, and I don't, sorry.
Okay, no worries. All right, seeing none, all those in favor of the resolution authorizing the city manager to execute the National Opioid Settlement Agreement related to Purdue Pharma opioid litigation and Maryland subdivision agreement, please say aye. Aye. Do we have any opposed? Any abstain? Okay, so we have 6 ayes, 1 abstain. Councilmember Honzak abstains. All right. Next item is a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute the National Opioid Settlement Agreement related to the secondary manufacturers opioid litigation and Maryland subdivision agreement. Would someone like to move it?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Landman. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Schlegel. Any points of discussion on this item? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor of the resolution authorizing the city manager to execute the National Opioid Settlement Agreement related to the secondary manufacturers opioid litigation and Maryland subdivision agreement, please say aye.
Aye.
Do we have any opposed? Any abstain? Councilmember, 6 ayes and 1 abstain. Okay, perfect. We're going to move to the next item, which is the first reading ordinance approving the FY26 budget amendment number 2. I'm going to pause to see if there are any points of discussion that staff would like for council to be made aware of.
There's a extremely minute adjustment of, I think, pennies as a correction to a typo from last time, so no substantive changes to the budget amendment for this reading.
I just want to make sure that that we heard that, City Manager DeSpirito. So you're saying there was a typo?
I think Susan is online to answer specifically.
Yes, I'm online.
Okay, thank you, Susan.
Yeah. There is a minor change on the Sligo Mill project with the revenue amount. The small change is about 2 cents reduction, 0.02 of reduction from the original budget amendment amount. So this is the minor change that the city manager is talking about. So so this is the only change for the first reading. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Chung. Would someone
Thank you.
Would someone like to move the first reading ordinance approving the FY26 budget amendment number 2?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Hanzak. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councilmember DeBala, for seconding. Any points of discussion on this one? Councilmember Landman, is that an old light?
Yes.
Okay. Councilmember Schlegel. Okay, that's everybody's ready to vote tonight. All right. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Landman,
Aye.
Councilmember DeBala,
Yes.
Councilmember Schlegel,
Yes.
Councilmember Gilbert,
Aye.
Councilmember Hanzak,
Aye.
Councilmember Wesselek,
Aye.
Councilmember Cersey, Mayor Cersey.
Aye.
I used to go last when I was on council too, before the mayor. All right, second reading ordinance approving aging in place contract with the Village of Tacoma Park.
Mayor Cersey, could I make a post facto comment on what we just voted on? Would that be out of order?
It kind of would be, but go right ahead.
I just wanted residents to know that no, wait a second. I'm on the wrong agenda item. I got up at 4:50 this morning. I apologize.
I feel
Okay,
your
never
pain.
mind. It's coming up.
That was my Monday, so I could totally relate. The next item is a single reading ordinance approving aging in place contract with the Village of Tacoma Park.
So moved.
Would someone like to move it? I think I heard Councilmember Hanzak moved and Councilmember Landman seconds.
I'd like to defer to the most senior member of the council
Don't
to
start this
second this
again,
amendment.
people.
Go ahead. Oh, sure.
So Councilmember DeBala moves
I second the amendment.
and
The
Councilmember,
motion.
let's give it to us.
I'm going to give it to our seniors. I give this one to the senior members of the council.
So Councilmember DeBala moves, Councilmember Landman
I'll
seconds.
have my day someday.
All right, any points of discussion on this one?
I just want to just caution you against immediately asking for some kind of grab bar or other improvement, okay?
Thank you.
Councilmember Schlegel, they just want a bench.
But I do, in all seriousness, no, it's fine. If we can't have fun together, what's the purpose of spending every Wednesday together? I do just want to, in all seriousness, just continue to stress the importance of this program and importance of the Village of Tacoma. We really appreciate all of the work that they're doing and definitely appreciate the partnership that the organization has and all of the work that our HCD staff has put in also with making sure that we're able to support our seniors. And so with that, because this is a second reading ordinance, would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Landman,
Aye.
Councilmember DeBala,
Yes.
Councilmember Schlegel,
Yes.
Councilmember Gilbert,
Yes.
Councilmember Hanzak.
Yes.
Councilmember Wesselek.
Aye.
Mayor Searcy.
Aye.
Okay, we're getting ready to move into our work sessions. I'm gonna do a quick check to see if we need a break. If folks need a 10-minute break? Okay, so we're gonna take a 10-minute break and we will reconvene at 9:10. Good evening. We are reconvening tonight's meeting of the Tacoma Park City Council. And we will get started with our work sessions this evening. The first is the police vehicle purchase, followed by police security camera trailer purchase and recommendations for appointments to the Youth Council. And so with that, I will turn things over to our Chief Duvall, to take us through the work session on the police vehicle purchase.
Good evening. Would you like me to go over both of them or just do the vehicles first?
That would be great.
Okay, certainly. So this evening, we're presenting the purchase of 3 police vehicles. All of them are marked police vehicles. They all are hybrids. They all are the new white color that we've transitioned to. I don't know if any of you have seen them. They look great. I think they look really professional, very inviting, and I think that's what's most important. All 3 of these vehicles were approved and in the ERR, the Vehicle Replacement Committee, reviewed the purchase of these vehicles. All 3 of them meet the criteria through the Vehicle Replacement Committee. Just one note, originally there were 5 vehicles that we were supposed to purchase this year, 5 marked vehicles. So part of what the Vehicle Replacement Committee does is evaluates if we can push vehicles off until the next year. So that's part of what the committee did. So we looked at the vehicles. There were some others that met the criteria, but we evaluated our fleet and felt comfortable that we could push 2 of the vehicles out, meaning 2 of the vehicles that we're currently using that per the vehicle replacement policy could have been replaced, we pushed them out a year. We felt that was fiscally responsible and prudent. So just so you know, normally it would have been 5. We've already naturally reduced that to 3. I want to touch on a few questions because I got some questions before the session about electric vehicles. There is an electric pursuit-rated vehicle currently available, and that's the Chevy Blazer. I will be candid, we have had issues with vehicles holding charge for vehicles that weren't even our patrol vehicles. I think I've mentioned to previous councils about the Nissan Rogue we got, which was an electric vehicle we originally assigned to one of our plainclothes officers. Couldn't even hold a charge for surveillance, couldn't even hold a charge for everyday use. So we assigned it to one of our captains who primarily works behind the desk in the office, and it was still hard to get a charge and hold a charge. So we're not confident at this point, nor are other law enforcement agencies for the majority of our fleet to transition to electric vehicles for our patrol fleet. Now we are for our unmarked vehicles. That's different. That's not the vehicles that get the daily use. So I'd be happy to answer any questions about that, but I just wanted to touch on that. Transitioning to the camera trailers, we are proposing purchasing 2 camera trailers. Both of these camera trailers were approved in this year's budget. Many of you know we've had extreme success with the camera trailers we have. They are in high demand. They are a deterrent. We have solved crimes with them. We cannot satisfy the need currently with the one trailer that we have that's solely owned by the city. So a little bit of background. We currently have 3 cameras right now. 2 of those trailers were purchased and donated to the city through the Tacoma Langley Crossroads Development Association. We have an agreement with them that we will only assign or put those trailers in that district area. And believe you me, there is high demand there just for those 2. So what we're going to be able to get with the 2 additional camera trailers we get is we think we can put them in all the places that we need. So when we have 3 or 4 different spots within the city that need cameras, now we're going to be able to adequately place them instead of moving the one we have around. And I have both Captain Evans, who can talk about the camera trailer, intimate details about that. I also have Captain Wazzati, who can answer any potential questions about the vehicle purchases. So with that, open it up to potential questions.
Great. And just as a reminder for my colleagues, we're going to do double duty, and we're dealing with the work sessions on the police vehicle purchase as well as the police security camera trailer purchase. So feel free to ask questions on either topic. Councilmember Honzak.
Thank you, Chief, so much for this. And I'd like to salute you for pushing 2 cars of the 5 cars back. I think that is valued by the community and by the council, and we really appreciate you thinking hard about that decision, as well as the trade-offs that we may need to make about hybrid and electric as we transition. I know that's been challenging during my time on council, just trying to make some of those tough choices. As you remember, the tough choice we had about a garbage truck, right? That was really hard for this council, and we can remind our colleagues if they didn't see that. But I have just one question about camera trailer. We recently in Ward 5 were able to appreciate the advantages of the camera trailer when it was posted up at Piney Branch and Flower. And it was really requested by a number of the businesses and even a few of the residents. In fact, just today, I was speaking to an older African-American resident who lives on Flower Avenue and has had a number of concerns about public safety in the area, and said to me, you know, several arrests were recently made. And I said, really? I actually did not know that. And he said, yeah, because a bunch of people who were hanging out up in that area have been arrested. And I wasn't sure if in this particular instance, the individual was saying that in a favorable way or in a less favorable way, whether it was felt that they were reasonable arrests. I mean, it wasn't for me or him to say, right? But I was curious how it was received. And actually he said, no, actually, I am sure that some of those folks who were arrested really were not up to good things as they were up there. And I'm saying it in a very good way. Where did that trailer go? But because it is very, very notable, you know, it flashes, it blinks, and that can be a deterrent. For sure it was a deterrent in this case. Can you just share a little bit about how you go about collecting kind of community feedback on that, particularly given kind of the police statey feeling that a lot of us are feeling right about now? I mean, I can totally see the advantages, but I can also see where some folks would be like, a little less might be more sometimes of that kind of thing.
Yeah, for the sake of, just for, you know, Captain Evans, I commend him for being here. It's under the weather, so this isn't necessarily about the purchase item, so I'll answer the question. We absolutely, you know, solicit feedback. The vast majority of times we're deploying the cameras, it's because of either documented cases where incidents have happened, or it's because we're hearing requests from the community. We've only had one occasion that I know of where a resident objected to where the camera was posted. They felt it may have been intrusive into their house. I can't remember what. We moved it. I mean, that's what we can find another area that is. But anytime we place the camera, we always place it in areas that are not intrusive, areas that are viewing public areas. But you know, like I say, it's really driven by many things, but part of that is citizen, resident input, resident request to have it. Like right now, we have several requests pending for placement because of issues that they've encountered in their neighborhoods.
And if I could just add, I'm doing this partial just for the community can hear us, because I know that there are probably some mixed feelings. Great to hear there's only been one negative feedback. I know that it was also used actually up at Totally Fraser effectively, I might add. Do you have any kind of timeline on how long these are usually used for the community to feel reassured that whenever it is placed, in fact, it is a mobile device?
Yeah, we have not left a device for a very extended period of time. It is situational. We've left it longer when we had the shots fired calls along Eastern Avenue and 4th Avenue, just because it was a deterrent, and it was very important that we gave that reassurance and that ease to the community. So that one was out there a little bit longer than normal. But normal, it's a 2-week cycle, and we cycle it out because obviously, you know, once it's in place, it doesn't serve as much. People know it's there. We're not, you know, criminals aren't gonna go by it. But normally, like you said, they're mobile. We don't leave them permanently somewhere. If we wanted to get something, we would have gotten a permanent structure device. Like if we wanted something in Old Town, we would have just bought something that was a pole device or something to that effect. We wouldn't have gotten the mobile camera. And we want the mobile cameras to be able to put them in areas where we're having problems.
And that includes the one that I've seen in the Langley Park, the two you were talking about in Langley Park in the parking lots. Those also move.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for that clarity.
Thank you, Councilmember Honzak. Councilmember DeBala.
Yes, thank you for coming in here to explain all this. Ward 2 residents love the mobile cameras, as I think you already know. Couple more questions. If you could say a little bit more about hybrids and all-electric pursuit vehicles. So there is now one commercially available, but only this for a year. What's the experience for, what's the experience of communities that you've heard about in terms of how they're doing with the pursuit vehicle?
That's a good question. So there's, the only pursuit-rated vehicle is the Chevy Blazer
Right.
that came out, I believe it's been on the market 2 years now.
Okay.
So we're getting feedback from different departments that have purchased those for their patrol capacity to try to figure out charging needs, et cetera. So our biggest thing with the electric vehicles is, number one, how long a vehicle can hold a charge, and is it capable of holding enough energy for the lights, the radios, the idling, all the things that we do, but also charging infrastructure. So getting some of the charges that we're getting is going to be a step in the right direction. You know, if the police fleet ever converts to fully electric, we're going to probably need chargers solely for city vehicles, meaning police vehicles, public works vehicles. So as we've talked about, that infrastructure change is going to be fluid. It's going to take a while to do. We also have the added caveat of we have contractual take-home vehicles. So we have to figure out how we're going to go about charging stations at individuals' officers' homes. So it's still a work in progress. As I've said multiple times, I said we're absolutely committed to transitioning to, to an energy-efficient fleet. The one good thing, you may remember that availability for the hybrids was limited, so we had to go back and purchase some gas vehicles. The good news now is the hybrids are readily available, so we can get those and get those quickly, because that's really important. But we're trying to take a look at what other jurisdictions have done as far as their test and evaluation. I know Montgomery County had not the Chevy Blazer, but another electric vehicle that they tried, and it just had the same issues we've had. I think we're going to get there. It's just a matter of the most important thing and the biggest thing, I think, is going to be the infrastructure to allow for the charging. So as simple as it is for me to go up to Public Works and refuel my vehicle, that's how simple it will be to get a charge. I think that's when we get to that point is when we're gonna see the benefits, I think, as well. And there were some questions about the wear and tear on vehicles, the difference between hybrids and regular gas vehicles. And I won't steal Daryl's thunder. I'll allow her to speak on that, as I'm not the Public Works Director. But we have not seen thus far a significant difference in the wear and tear of the vehicle between hybrids and the gas vehicles. But I think we'd probably be different if we had electric vehicles. But like I say, we're absolutely committed to looking at doing that. And I just want to explain the differences between what I'm talking about. We have electric vehicles for our non-patrol vehicles. So our patrol vehicles are the ones that are driven 12 hours a day. We have 12-hour shifts, and officers in that vehicle driving 12 hours a day. Our unmarked vehicles can be anything from command staff, myself. I drive into work, I go to meetings, so on and so forth. Or we have detectives that are occasionally out and about, or we have our plainclothes people. So we do have electric vehicles. We have electric vehicles for our parking enforcement. And we do have other electric vehicles for some of our sworn staff. So it's easier to transition to an electric vehicle for a non-patrol capacity than it is for patrol capacity.
So my third question you already answered, but my second question you started to answer. So as we just voted on 5 charters as part of a grant. And so what input has your department had to the location and the type of chargers? Is that going to take us toward what we need?
Absolutely, it's a step in the right direction. I believe 3 of them are going to be placed in the police department parking
That's the
lot.
current plan,
So we will
yes.
be able to directly utilize them
Right, so that
for
would be
for
free.
our
Correct.
police vehicles, and it will free up, because right now sometimes we're using the public charging. So we're taking away from residents' availability to use those as well. So we're hopeful, number one, for our existing electric fleet, it will open it up more, but it also will open us up to then, okay, if we purchase another electric vehicle, having the availability to now we have a charging station here that's in our station and in our parking lot. So yeah, it's a step in the right direction. I will say it's a all-inclusive approach when you're talking about Dory and our energy efficiency and sustainability manager, and with our fleet, we're working together, so we don't make purchases for the charges or anything sustainability-wise if it doesn't have the right impact on the police department or public works or the rec department. So we work very closely. I'm thrilled that we're getting them. I think that my vehicle's getting old. My next vehicle will be an electric vehicle. It'd be great to have a charging station right in the parking lot where you can pull in and do your work, and when you go home you have a full charge.
So, thank you for that. So, I think we are all still interested in seeing electric vehicles as soon as we can get them for pursuit rated, as soon as we can work the details out. You're putting two, and I appreciate that you're pushing two out. Are you pushing them out 6 months or a year? The two vehicles you're pushing out? When?
We push them off to next year, and we'll
Okay, so
reevaluate next year.
next
And there may
year.
be, a couple vehicles that were scheduled to be replaced next year that we may
Right.
push back. So, it's part of the vehicle replacement committee. We always want to be very prudent in our approach to this, in our spending. And if we can say, okay, well, we have another vehicle that we think we can push out a year, we'll do everything we can to make sure we do that. And, did these vehicles meet the criteria for replacement? Yes. But through the conversation, and it's we meet regularly. The Vehicle Replacement Committee is Keith from Public Works, Daryl from Public Works, myself, other police department employees. Susan Chung is there as well. So we're always looking at long-term, trying to make sure that our purchases are very, very frugal, but also maintain the fleet needs for the respective departments.
Thank you for that. The point I was trying to make was when you come back the next time, that might be a good time to see if we can have a comparison with electric vehicle, even if it's not necessarily the one that's recommended, but just so that we can look at the cost of an EV versus the hybrid, if that's what you wind up recommending. We're talking about a year from now, so we don't know. But I'm just putting that out there. This time you went straight to the hybrid. Makes a lot of sense.
And just so you know, the reason we went straight to the hybrid, we didn't just go straight to the hybrid. We had a comprehensive conversation in the Vehicle Replacement Committee about what we should purchase. So it wasn't like, okay, we're just going to go to the hybrids. We had a comprehensive conversation about the viability. Do we have the infrastructure? A lot of it comes from our Keith, our head mechanic, and Daryl weigh in and say, we just don't feel like we're there yet. So, but the discussion was there about would we replace these with electric vehicles? And we'll have that same discussion next year when we're talking about purchasing vehicles. We even discussed the possibility of should we purchase one and so on and so forth. There were some concerns from Keith about the Chevy product and some of the issues they were having that he was seeing from the mechanic standpoint with that Chevy platform, and he did not feel comfortable with us even moving forward with that until let somebody else be the guinea pig for that platform. But I'm hopeful 3 years in when we have that conversation, and at the very least we can, if we're going to, I'm not sure exactly how many we're going to purchase next year, but maybe one or two could be electric vehicles, and we could try them out there. We just did not feel collectively from the expertise in the room that we were ready to move on to the electric vehicles at this point for our patrol vehicles. That's our marked vehicles.
Well,
Great.
thank you for letting me know that.
Thank you so
Okay.
much. You took all the time. Councilmember Gilbert.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the presentation, Chief. You actually answered my question in your previous comments, who the members of the committee were. So, but my secondary question was going to be, is there any way we can convince Lieutenant Butler to stick around for a little longer? It's a lot of institutional knowledge that's walking out the door,
Yeah, so a plug for everyone that didn't get the message. Tomorrow at 2 o'clock, we are having a celebration of Lieutenant Butler's 28 years of service to the city of Tacoma Park. There's a lot of institutional knowledge that's walking out the door, so please join us. We have the traditional last call and walkout, and so 2 o'clock here in the atrium room. JB is an amazing individual. If you want some inside jokes, you got to come tomorrow. It's about ankles, but not mine, but his. But got to come tomorrow to get those jokes. So, but I appreciate that.
Thank you, Councilmember Gilbert. Councilmember Landman.
You must have gone over this in your detailed discussions about the comparison shopping. What is the cost comparison between the purchase of one of the EV vehicles versus the hybrids that you wound up selecting, out of curiosity?
I believe, and it's either about the same or the electric vehicle's a little bit more costly. But I'm not 100% sure. I could circle back and give you the exact, what the model year for this year cost for the Chevy Blazer as opposed to the Ford product. I'm more than happy to do that.
Comparable, not massively more expensive, in other words.
To be honest, I don't recall specifically. I don't want to be misquoted, but I think, if I remember, I mean, it was in the 5,000 range above, but I don't recall specifically. I have to go back and look.
And just quickly to piggyback off of that question, because I know that in conversations that the council has had regarding moving to electric vehicles, you all typically also look at the long-term maintenance costs as well, which is also where often the differential, like there's cost savings associated with gas if we have the infrastructure in place.
Fuel
But
savings,
but the cost associated with actually having access to the staff that can maintain those vehicles and the maintenance costs associated with them when they go down is actually more. So it would be helpful if we are going to send those cost comparisons, if we can make sure that it's a little bit more comprehensive.
Yeah, I would say, just to Councilmember Lanham and Mayor Searcy, I'll defer to Keith, our mechanic, to provide the information, but we can provide some of the law enforcement perspective. But he is the one that can, to speak to what Mayor Searcy just said regarding the overall maintenance cost. So when we look at these vehicles, obviously right now, every year we have 5 vehicles this year, and money is placed in the ERR to purchase 5 vehicles and outfit those 5 vehicles. But what we don't have in the ERR currently is factoring in the charging infrastructure that is needed. For example, not just the charging infrastructure here within the station, the high-powered chargers, but also, are we now going to have to factor in, if we have an EV, a home charger? What is that going to cost?
Right.
So there are other associated costs. So even if, let's say, the Chevy Blazer is $2,000 more, I'm just throwing that number out there, the other associated cost that would come from that would be a charging station. So, that what we had to do when Captain Holmes originally got her vehicle. So there are other associated costs. I think that's what Mayor Searcy is getting at, that if we're doing the cost comparisons, that's probably good. And some of those are unknown, some of those are known, some of those are still to be determined based on the, once these vehicles have been on the road for a while.
So one of the factors that I'm assuming that you cannot lease one of these vehicles for a year or two as a test comparison if you're talking about pursuit-rated police vehicles. Is that right? That it's a question is purchase or not purchase?
Right now, the city's purchasing guidelines don't have a lease component, but I know that there's a need or a desire to have that discussion about that possibility. That's been brought up before.
Okay.
The way our current vehicle replacement works, we don't have leasing as a component, but it's definitely something that we can evaluate it. The city manager is very familiar with that. It was done in Rockville. There is a system to do that, but currently our system does not. It wouldn't allow us to go out and lease a vehicle. I will say,
Is that something that might make sense to you at a moment of transition or inflection like this, when we're considering a completely different technology and we're essentially trying out something that is quite experimental, to consider a leasing option as a pilot, if you will, as opposed to having a complete change in our policy?
That's a really good question, but I think to answer your question, there are enough agencies doing test and evaluation of these type of vehicles that I don't think we need to do our own test and evaluation. So, for example, Hyattsville is doing their own test and evaluation, and they spent, the EV they bought was extremely expensive, over $100,000 all combined. So we can take the data that they have and apply it to us. So I don't necessarily think we need to do our own test and evaluation when we have other jurisdictions doing that test and evaluation for us.
So my last question, if I may, one more. When it comes to the high-speed chargers that are being installed right now, which I guess we'll know pretty soon what the date of feasibility, when we'll be able to plug in a police vehicle there, the time frame for them charging is really very brief compared to what we had in the past, I suppose. So a police vehicle needing to recharge during the day might be tolerable where it wasn't before, because I imagine officers during the course of the day do come back to the station at some point during their 12-hour shift. I wonder whether that change, as the time frame for charging changes, whether the feasibility of having a EV changes as well. What do you think about that?
As I said earlier, we already have electric vehicles that we can already do that evaluation on how long they'll hold a charge, whether or not it's viable. So we already have electric vehicles that we can, now that we have these high-speed chargers, what will be the difference?
Yeah.
I brought up the example of the Nissan Rogue that we have. That could be one of the vehicles that we would definitely see. Okay, well now we have a high-speed charger that's available to us. What is the difference and the viability of that vehicle for different uses, for undercover use, for more long-term use, as opposed to assigning it to someone that worked behind a desk, essentially. So we have the vehicles to do that. I think, I'm guessing that we'll have enough data within the next year or so for us to be able to definitively say, this is what it's going to cost if we're going to effectively transition our fleet. And to be candid, we're not just talking about the police fleet, we're talking about our entire fleet. We have the most vehicles in the city, the police department does, but Public Works has several as well, and several that are much, much larger vehicles and obviously would require a lot more gas and or electric charging. So all of these things are important. I think that we're trying to educate ourselves on enough. I'm not sure that leasing a vehicle is going to give us the squeeze that's worth the squeeze isn't worth the juice on that, because other people are doing it right now and we can just get their data utilized for us.
Thank you, Councilmember Lamb and Councilmember Slagle.
Thank you. I appreciate all the questions, and I thank you for your responses to some of my questions that I had this week. Just a couple of things. One observation is that when we're balancing the EV versus the hybrid, the long-term fuel or power costs are worth taking into consideration. If you control your power source or you're paying a standard bill and not going to a commercial charging facility, and we don't know what the rates will be, but we know that you can usually count on some savings over the life of the vehicle. I also wanted to thank you for extending the life of those two vehicles, because that's one of the greenest things you can do, is simply not buy another vehicle for a little while. One question I had was, I was asking about the back end of the vehicle's life story here in Tacoma Park, and when they are to be disposed or they're seen as defined as surplus. I know that the administrative policy says they are auctioned, and there are very clear rules on that. I think in the interest of transparency, two things I would like to ask you and the city manager if it would be possible. First, could the city website publish the information about where you can go to offer up if you're interested as a resident in maybe bidding for a vehicle that the city is moving out of the fleet? Second, could we get a clearer record in the budget on revenues of what the price that these vehicles are fetching is, just so we would know about, like, it's not just depreciation, but maybe there's no buyers and maybe the auction price is pennies on the dollar, and it would be good for us to know, compared to what Blue Book value might be, what we're getting for these vehicles. So thank you.
Yeah, just to be clear, I just want to be crystal clear. The police department doesn't auction the vehicles. That's Public Works.
Okay.
It was Keith at Public Works does all that, but we definitely can relay the message to city managers taking notes. But we're not involved in that. Once the vehicles are deadline, they go up to Public Works. Public Works they're the staff that put the vehicles on offer up and so on and so forth.
I've seen them there on the lower driveway.
Yeah, the perception of years ago, the police department used to be involved in and that's back when the police department used to seize vehicles and sell them. So you can imagine the perception of that. So we don't do that. We don't do that anymore. We don't essentially seize vehicles anymore. But that's why it was transitioned over to Public Works. But absolutely, that's information that's critical. I think that our finance manager's not here, Susan, but I think that's in the budget somewhere, if I'm not mistaken, or at least it's tracked as far as once the sales are made, how much comes back to the city.
Right, and I wanted to chime in on that point because I'm not sure if Director Chung is there, but It may not be estimated as part of the budget, but is actually part of our ACFR, or the accounting report that typically comes through, that we will be briefed on in the fall, where you get those final reconciliation numbers in terms of expenditures and any revenues that have been recouped for the prior budget year.
Thanks. Yeah, I've seen the global numbers, but to see it like a per vehicle, like vehicle number 351 sold for this much, you know, when it was retired, that would be helpful. I
Makes
also
sense.
wanted to thank you for the equipping of these vehicles after purchase is an expensive component. It might be almost 30% of the overall cost, and I appreciate that you made the point that when possible, you examine the equipment, the computers, the communications equipment, and you see what can be transferred into another fleet vehicle rather than just, you know, vaporized. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, I just want to thank you all, and Captain, go home.
Yeah, I commend him. He drove a long
Thank you
way
for
to come in.
being
and-
here
yeah.
sick, but please go home. One of the things that I do just want to make sure my colleagues are aware of is the fact that I know that we have been drilling these points home to you all for years now. So, you know, thank you all so much for continuing to think through electrification as a priority as you are considering what to do in terms of allocation of vehicles under the ERR and the formulas that you're using to do so. I do think, as was described last week by Director Braithwaite, it's kind of like a chicken and egg. If you build it, they will come. And to some degree, in a large degree, we need to make sure that we have the infrastructure in place so that vehicles, as we're electrifying them, as we're electrifying our fleet, we have the infrastructure in place to make sure that those vehicles can be charged and charged in a timely way. And so I appreciate the fact that we are taking this comprehensive approach. And although we're not able to have electric vehicles, everything electric right now, it is very clear to me that we're on the path to see that happen in the future. So I want to thank you all for all of your work on that. And also, I know that there's going to be a number of folks in line to see if it's possible for them to get the camera trailer in certain parts of the city. So thank you all for making that additional investment.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much. That's all
Thank
we
you.
got. Awesome.
Can you order him to go home now?
Go home.
Thank you.
We're voting on it next week.
Madam Mayor, we have in front of us a draft ordinance, a single reading ordinance that we're going to be considering next week about the vehicles. And I think that I've been discussing with my colleague, Councilmember DeBala, perhaps adding a phrase, a whereas clause to the ordinance, that maybe now would be a good time to discuss it, don't you think? And sharing it, that addresses the issue of electric vehicles and why they are not in the fleet proposal for this year. And I think I just emailed you a draft of the language that maybe you just would be interested in. We could read it to people now if you think it would be relevant, so that they would have a chance to consider it. That would just be a way of having it be before the public, since it's going to be in.
If you would like to read your amendment aloud and share it with the council, including the placement of your whereas for consideration, and it would be included as included in the version that we will vote on next week as an amendment that would need to be voted on.
Thank you. All right. This would be proposed to be included as a fourth whereas clause after the one that describes the 3 hybrid vehicles in the current draft resolution that was posted on the city's website in preparation for this evening's city council meeting. And it would read, whereas the city remains committed to its climate net zero goals, but until fully functional electric pursuit-rated police vehicles are commercially available, hybrid vehicles remain the environmentally preferable option.
Councilmember Hanzak.
I appreciate that proposed amendment. I'm thinking it might need a little bit of tweaking, just because I think, because I'm very visual. I think I heard you say until they are available, and they are available. So it just might need a little bit of adjustment, and I don't have that off the top of my head. But because he did say the Chevy is available.
Yeah,
it's
that's
maybe
where the language
viable is
about
the word,
fully
more
functional.
viable.
Yeah, or
Yeah, or something like that.
well, it should be in the draft that we're going to be getting in our packet, so please feel free to revise it. That was just, I wanted to have people know it was going to be in the draft for consideration, because we just finished talking about it now, so that's why I wanted to bring it up. during our
But I will say,
discussion.
Councilmember Landman, I know that you and Councilmember DeBala have been thinking through that language. If based on the conversation, the work session that we've just had, you want to make a quick tweak to the language prior to sending it to council for review, feel free to do that too.
Thank you, and anybody who has suggestions, please feel free to email me, and I'll be happy to take ideas. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, we're moving to the last work session this evening, recommendations for appointments to Youth Council. I'll turn things over to our working group on committees.
Okay, thank you. This time I will be doing my best to lead off, and I ask Councilmember Hanzak and Councilmember Gilbert to back me up as needed. We have been working diligently, and we would like to thank Ms. Navarte and City Clerk Jesse Carpenter for extraordinary help and patience with us as we worked through this process. We received a total of 17 applications for 11 positions on this youth council. 5 of those are individuals who are requesting to return from last year. We had applications from 14 high school students and 3 middle school students. We've ended up nominating for you 2 middle school students, partly with the thought that you don't want to be the only middle school student on the council. We have followed our youth council's charter and guidelines in making all the efforts we could to recruit from wards 4, 5, and 6, which has been a need, and to seek racial and ethnic diversity. The outcomes this time, the headlines are that from wards 4, 5, and 6, we will have a total of 4 members of the 11. So not really the balance that we want, not really the emphasis that we want, but we had to balance that interest also with the quality of the applications received and the number of applications received. Also, it's of note that there will be no Latino or Latina member on the youth council this year. So that's also something where we all know we want to keep doing what we can in terms of recruitment. And so I guess that's a group of 7 effort if we can keep our eye on that. Oh, I neglected to thank Ms. Heidebrecht, who got a shout out this evening as the staff liaison with the group. And she's been extraordinarily helpful in helping us think about the dynamics of this past year's group, the needs in terms of energizing and engaging that group potentially even more. And as a high school teacher, I take a great interest in and have actually offered to, if it's okay with you all, to come to their orientation and just get them talking, getting them engaged, and representing all of us in a few simple activities to help them feel the sense of empowerment and joy in being part of this organization, which is definitely a youth development organization. We have a good mix of continuing and new members. We also hope to send a letter to the candidates upon their selection to raise awareness about their opportunities to engage with us as council. This could be engaging with all of us by asking for an agenda item, and the letter will make clear that that's no guarantee in any given week. but also to invite individual council members, short of quorum, to stop in at meetings, and to come to meetings. And there's a number of other things that we'll pose to this group to see if you'd like to tweak a letter that we can send out just to truly welcome them and help them feel empowered in their positions. The last thing I'll say is that in this cycle, there is one member who is in very good standing from last year seeking to continue. This member's continuation would have, in our judgment and Ms. Heidebrecht's judgment, great benefits for the Youth Council. However, due to a personal situation beyond this individual's control that could really happen to any young person, they are not currently living inside the city boundary. They're within distance where they could easily make it to meetings. The code is very clear that they cannot qualify as a voting member. What we're asking the council to consider is appointing them as an ex officio non-voting member, to provide that institutional knowledge and support and continuity, and leadership, as the elected group, as the selected group is comfortable. We also are going to let that selected group know that the other applicants who were not selected are going to be strongly encouraged to be participatory, come to the youth council meetings, which are open to all, and help with youth council initiatives. That's about all I had. Do you have anything to add, Councilmember Gilbert or Councilmember Honzak?
That's very comprehensive.
Okay.
Thank you all very much. Quick question around the ex officio. Is there any language in the code at all that would prohibit us from doing that? I know that there's ex officio members in some of the other, or non-resident opportunities in some of the other committees, so I am completely okay with us moving forward in this regard. I just want to make sure that it's there aren't any constraints as it relates to.
Yeah, we don't see anything that prohibits doing this. It's not called out as something to do, but it's not, we don't see anything that would prohibit
us from
appointing
doing
someone
it.
as a non-voting member.
Okay, great. Councilmember DeBala?
And just to remind, to clarify, and so this person is currently a full member and would otherwise be eligible except for the residency piece.
This member's term ended on July 31st, and this former member would like to be reappointed. Is
Right,
that
so
clear? Yeah.
they meet the age and all the other,
They
they're
meet,
still
yeah,
in high school. et
they're still in
cetera.
high school. They meet the age requirement. It's a
It's a
personal
residency issue.
circumstance beyond their control, and they are in fact actively seeking and hoping to move back into Tacoma Park.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Honzak?
I did think of one thing I just wanted to maybe emphasize is I might add that we had a really intense discussion as a subcommittee about this recruitment issue from 4, 5, and 6, looking back at the original language that went around the creation of the Youth Council. And I think all of us would agree that one of the things we would like to ask of our colleagues is, as we go into next year, like thinking about now, what could we all do together to really lay that foundation and make sure that during those summer months when it's really hard to connect with young people, what might we do differently in the future to help one another go after that? The Youth Council themselves, I know, have been working at it, as Christine Heidebrecht explained to us, but I think there are a lot of things that we, the council members, might be able to do. So if any of you have ideas on how we could do even better, we were struggling. We gave ourselves a little time to try to sort it out and as best we could, but thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Honzak. Councilmember Wesseler?
Thank you. So my question is, if there there are 11 positions on the youth council total. So then if this ex officio member, would that mean that then there are 12 on it and 11 that can vote?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councilmember DeBala, is that an old hand?
This is a new hand responding to what Councilmember Honzak asked.
Okay.
So one thing that occurs to me is as we each go to Blair for various events and things in the year, we go for, to talk about voting. We go to the government fair, and all of the reasons we all go to Blair, mentioning that there is a city youth council and this opportunity exists. So while we have a captive audience, they're in school and we're talking to them. That's my thought. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember DeBala. Councilmember Landman?
This is a question, given the, when we had more candidates than we had spots, is there a strong rationale for having a fixed number that cannot get bigger if we have enthusiasm for more candidates than we have slots? I know that, for some kids, their ability to participate may wax and wane over the course of the year. And it seems to me that turning people away is, if it's not necessary, I'm not sure why we would. I mean, if we have the flexibility, there may be good reasons. I'm just really asking that question. Anyway, thank you.
It would be my thought that we want to keep the voting numbers to a minimum. We do know, and I learned this during our meeting, is that anyone can come to the meetings, and we can have as many of the youth at the meetings in conversation, but we need to keep the voting numbers to a decent level, I would think.
Thank you, Councilmember Gilbert. Councilmember Honzak?
This did actually, we discussed briefly this, and colleagues correct me if I get this wrong, but I recall that we were talking about how with other city committees, you have a certain number of people that are appointed, but in every case, if in the newspaper, for example, in our city newsletter, you'll see that all committees invite all residents to join if they'd like as non-voting members. So I think part of it is the commitment that you're seeking from the members that are appointed. There's a certain prestige to being appointed, right? And then, and also just like a civic responsibility to show up for the meetings too. You are an appointed member. We like to see you here. So I think sort of that commitment level is possibly higher if you're appointed and you have a fixed number. Also, there's a real concern, I think, with youth. And I don't know what the ratios are, but we've got to think about supervision too of young people. And we've classically not always had the staff power actually to do that, but that's a really important one. Yeah.
Thank you, Councilmember Honzak. Councilmember DeBala?
Just a couple of other things from previous years. There's been the possibility to steer someone who's really interested in the topic to be on another committee because they're eligible, even if they're, and a couple times that's worked out. But also, at least in the experience that I've had, not every applicant is really ready to roll. So saying you're going to take everybody kind of as a first blush, then it's harder to say no to the people that really aren't ready to do the job.
Thank you, Councilmember DeBala. Councilmember Schlegel?
Yes, thank you for that. Just a couple of things. It's a very minor point, but similar with other committees, there is a $40 stipend paid. So in terms of budgeting for if you had no upper limit, I also think that, well, from my experience as a teacher, 11, 12, right in there, you can still have everybody knows everybody else. When you get beyond that, it becomes a rather unwieldy group for discussions. Some people just never get in and other people dominate as a result. Those were just a couple of thoughts. I had one other, but I can't remember it.
Thank you, Councilmember Schlegel. Councilmember Gilbert?
Yeah, in mentioning the stipend, did we discuss whether or not the ex officio member would be eligible for it? I thought we,
So, Ms. Heidebrecht contacted the person, and they are willing to serve without a stipend. Their interest is that strong that they are happy to serve without it.
I remembered my point, if I could talk about. To your point, Councilmember DeBala, we did have some applications where the things that they said they wanted to work on were actually things that our staff already do. For example, we should help cut the grass at the playground, you know? So that might be something where some of those folks could be steered into. Well, if you're interested in a different kind of committee, you know, we could help you out with that. We could look back at the applications and think about that. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Honzak?
Actually, the stipend thing is not, I wasn't planning on talking about that. I was going to say something else, but it did come up. I have to admit to you that I was surprised. I had not really realized that the youth council was also receiving stipends. And I just think it'd be interesting to have a conversation about, you know, how I know that we were trying to increase participation across the city on all of the committees, but it is unusual for a youth-related activity of any kind in our city to involve a stipend unless it's a internship of some sort. And I would just welcome a quick conversation about that in terms of, you know, is it helping? Is it helping us? Do we think that's the right thing to do? It is a little bit of a different kind of committee in some ways than others. And I think it has intrinsic value for young people. It's definitely something that looks great on a resume, as do many other after-school activities. I think it does happen during the after-school hours too, with an adult supervisor. So just something, just that wasn't my main point. The other thing is, I just wanted to suggest too, Councilmember DeBala, you said when you go to Blair, we could recruit, so we could maybe get some papers or flyers from Ms. Carpenter as we do that. But maybe we could all bear in mind too that this is going to be, you know, November is coming up, and then the next year will be the presidential year, and it might be a great time for all of us to think about whether or not we just might want to work harder on youth engagement as a council a little bit as we look at what's happening in our society around us and how we might go about that. I don't know if it's an agenda item we might want to ask for at some point, but definitely we wouldn't want to do it without our youth council. So, thanks.
Thank you all so much. There's a lot of things to noodle over, and I appreciate the working committee's thoughts. You know, Councilmember Honzak, your point about youth council stipends, I think it's important to make sure that we're giving them stipends. I will say, when I was a kid growing up, when I was old enough to work, I had to work. I've been working since I was 15 years old because we did not have the money. So even though something like this would be beneficial for college applications and the like, if the goal is to make sure that we have diversity and we're able to bring in, you know, kids across our community who are smart and talented and could use that extra money in order to do some of the things that they need to do for themselves or their families, I would fully support making sure that we're able to provide those opportunities for them. SSL hours are important. I'm not trying to deny that at all, and the prestige is important. But the reason why prior council went down the path of trying to ensure that stipends were made available was to lower some of those barriers to entry that people in our community are facing when it comes to volunteering hours of your time for public service. But I do, again, agree that we should think creatively about ways that we can engage youth in the community. I've mentioned youth council when I go to Blair, and it's a little hard because sometimes not all the kids are in the city of Tacoma Park, and so then they're interested, and then you like they don't live here, and then I have to be like, I'm sorry, But so if there are some ways that we could kind of target our outreach within the city borders, I think that might help as well. But just as a reminder for folks, this is something that will come to us to vote on next week. And again, I cannot stress enough how much I appreciate our working group for doing all of the hard lifting. I used to be on one of those working groups, so I know how much deliberation it takes to get to this point, and definitely appreciate all of the work that you all have put forward. Okay, seeing no more lights. I think we're done for the evening. Is everybody all right if I bang this gavel? All right, awesome. Everyone have a fantastic night.